Welcome to the Middle Age Podcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A., here we are. You've been busy this week.
Well, yeah, my episode with Dan from Casting Views went out yesterday, so that was exciting.
Yeah, I had to listen to it. I was laughing while out in public listening to it, and I was laughing and getting a few weird looks at why was I laughing to things I was listening to. But yeah, I did have a good time listening along and some really good stories in there.
I understand that you and Mrs Shelano both picked out a couple of my choices, but I deliberately put in a real mix of stuff that made it difficult actually to guess, I think, some of the things I went for.
Yeah, there was a couple like on the certain categories, and obviously we won't give anything away on here, but a couple of the TV shows that you mentioned, and I think one of the films I'd got straight away. But yeah, there was some really surprising things on there as well. Really enjoyed it, and some good stories. Some I'd heard before, some I hadn't, and of course,
some you were involved in.
Some that I was involved in, and yes,
spanning many years actually in some cases.
And at some point we'll have to touch upon a few of those. But for now, please, listeners, if you are obviously wanting to find out a bit more about TA, then you can go and listen to Casting Views Mind Wipe, and we'll put some links in the description and also on other socials. There are some links at the moment, but we'll make sure we're posting about that. And of course, Dan, great friend of the show, so yeah, please go and support him and listen to his fantastic podcast, Casting Views.
Now, of course, that episode went out live yesterday, which was Sunday the 16th of February, which means, Rich, we're actually recording on a Monday night for the first time in podcast history. Our schedule have had it so this is the first time we're not recording on a Saturday, and it's back-to-back virtuals as well, which, you know, I'm not sure whether I've offended you or I'm not allowed in the studio anymore, or there's been a change to my contract, but it's just pure coincidence that February isn't working well for scheduling. But this is a Monday, a bit like Monday Night Football when it came in for the Premier League, Monday Night podcast.
So we're essentially Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher.
But better.
But better. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, I'm a Liverpool fan, so I shouldn't say that about Carragher, but yeah, we are better.
Better. That's it. You know, yeah. No football on this podcast either.
And it's better than us being compared to the Mitchell brothers like we usually are.
Do you know, I had that discussion with somebody the other day, randomly, and it was the day after Grant had returned to EastEnders. So I'd switched over. I don't watch that programme anymore, but I'd switched over for what was coming on at 8 o'clock and caught and it was, lo and behold, it was Phil, Nigel and Grant in the same room was the end point, which it takes you back about 3 decades, I think.
Yeah, it is. I saw a clip earlier of Phil and Grant when they were first in it, and it just seemed so strange.
It's all around this 40th anniversary, I think. So it's quite interesting because you and I are actually able to go to quite a lot of 40th birthday celebrations at the moment. So there's a sort of another thing that 1985 seems to be very popular.
We've got like one a month for the next. We've had one. We've got one coming up, and then another one to come as well after that.
Well, yeah, and hopefully as sort of minor celebrities on the circuit now, we might even get an invite to the EastEnders batch.
We'll have to keep dreaming about that one, I think, TA. But yeah, that would be a good laugh. But yeah, here we are.
Indeed, and we'll crack on, Rich. What's been happening? Because I don't think actually. The last day I saw you was the day of our last recording when we were actually going out that evening to see Katherine Ryan. So I have not actually seen you since then. So
should we just touch upon going to see Katherine Ryan as you brought it up there, TA?
Yeah, sure.
Because I have to say, I really enjoyed that. I haven't been to a comedy gig for a couple of years now. And the last one I went to, obviously, Jason Manford, that we both went to actually a couple of years ago. And that was brilliant as well. What I found really good about the Katherine Ryan one was the sort of interactive part. So she obviously starts the show with her usual sort of spiel and taking the mick out of her family, her husband especially. And then she went away for the interval and she put a phone number up on the screen and said, please text this or WhatsApp this number and we'll put your things up on the screen. And I did actually send a message to the number asking if she'd appear on the Middle Age podcast, or would she at least buy my friend's book. She did not respond to either of those, even though I offered a free coaster. That's terrible. But she did the next day, which was amazing, like my Instagram post that I put up on the podcast socials. So on the very, very small, minor chance she actually listens to an episode, thank you very much, Katherine Ryan, for that.
I think it's a very small chance. I think you'd have to send her this, and she still probably wouldn't listen to it, to be honest. But you never know. I know you were thrilled with the like, and yeah, it was quite funny with the offer of her coming on here and or buying my book.
We'll just send her a copy of the book. I'll buy it for her. That's fine.
Okay, fair enough. We all need sales. We all need sales. But yeah, it was a good evening, and different place to go as well, because we went over to Wolverhampton Civic, which has obviously been through a significant renovation, and it's quite a beautiful big venue now.
It is the second time I've been there since it reopened. I actually went a couple of years ago to watch The Undertaker of WWE fame doing a talk there a couple of years ago. And I have to say, I didn't get to see as much of the venue as I did when we went to see Katherine Ryan. And yeah, it's really good. I mean, the seating, I have to say, we were obviously on a balcony, so we were sort of the first level up, but at the front. But the view was fantastic. You could see the whole show. You didn't need to... I think sometimes when you're on the ground floor, you know, you're on that sort of the stage floor, it's really difficult to see, even if you're a little bit closer and whatever. But yeah, really, really impressed with the venue on the whole. And I thought it was a great, a really great gig and a great place to go. The only thing I would say, obviously I work around that area, but there's not a lot to do sometimes, like on an evening, like trying to find places. And obviously we went to eat, and that was really busy. And I found that not so much frustrating, just because it was a small venue and they kept opening the door and we were sat by it. But it did seem like they need a little bit more going on there, just to sort of give people a bit more variety when they go into shows like that.
I suppose the thing is, if you know, obviously I spend a lot of time in Birmingham, which by comparison is a much bigger city. It was noticeable. Wolverhampton's a place I've been to before, but not regularly. Appreciate, obviously, you used to have to spend quite a bit of time there. So I think I was a bit surprised as well. There wasn't perhaps a little bit more, certainly on the eating side.
Yeah, there's some. Well, there are good places to go to. There are some really nice places, and I think that's the thing. But
just not a lot of them.
Just not a lot, exactly. And that's the thing that I find quite strange about the place. Hopefully, they'll have a little bit more opening up, especially now as sort of more regeneration is going into the city.
Well, away from that, I have to say, since our last recording, it's been a bit of a tumultuous time for me, Rich, because I got ill last week.
Yes. You did mention this.
And the investigation remains incomplete, but it's torn between food poisoning and norovirus. And the reason I say that, I've heard a lot of people have had sort of norovirus, whereas I was kind of erring towards blaming Mrs Shelano's cooking at one point. So at the moment, I was sort of, what's going on? Is she trying to poison me, or have I genuinely felt ill? So just in case, I bought her a Valentine's card, obviously, because that's just Friday gone. So hopefully, if it was the former, and she is trying to poison me because of all the things I said about her with the passive-aggressive notes in the fridge in a previous episode, the Valentine's card will stop that. So that's been a bit weird. So it's interfered a little bit with sort of physical exercise and things like that. I had to spend most of the day in bed, and which felt a little bit better the next day. And so it was a bit of a disruptive influence on last week, which was frustrating. But by the time I'd recovered to Friday and taking me back with to Mrs Shelano for a second, I want to do it. This is an add-on. You had your episode, so your raging rich ranting episode around digital media, etc. Here's my little moment, if you'll allow me a couple of minutes of ranting Shelano, or Shelano speaks. I don't know what we're going to call this, but but essentially, right, going to Birmingham city centre Friday morning, Mrs Shelano and I, we go to work, and I say, should we get a coffee? And she goes, yeah, okay. And then she goes into this whole rigmarole about how she's got this app now But because I hadn't mentioned early enough, she'll have difficulty with the signal as we're approaching the coffee shop because there's not a good signal around there for the internet or something. And so then there becomes this ridiculous scenario where she's going, I can't get my app open. We stood outside in the cold and she's sort of waving the phone in the air, like she's out in the countryside or something trying to get reception. And you're in the middle of a city centre, and I'm not kidding you, it was cold, and all I wanted was to get a coffee, right? So I'm like, I'm not interested yet. Give this up, right? To the point where by the time we then walked into the coffee shop, I was just like, you know what? You go and sit down. I'm going to go and order I was literally getting quite annoyed. And so she goes and sits down. I get to the counter, and so the woman says, what do you want? Blah, blah, blah. And so I said, have you got our app? And I'm like, oh, don't start that. I said, we stood outside. I said, my wife has the app, but she can never get signal, it seems, in the shop unless she's pre-prepared from way before she gets to the shop where there is signal. Oh, yes, the signal is quite bad here. Well, that doesn't help. So you go, okay, right, order these coffees. £8 for a couple of coffees. I won't name which chain of coffee place this is, but you can have a guess. It's one of those big ones. She then says, gives me a receipt and says, if you spend more than £6 and complete this survey, complete this survey, that's it. And on your next visit, if you spend more than £6, you get £2 off. One, I get tired of people asking me to do surveys. Why, when that ever became a thing? Tell us about your experience. How about no? Unless I'm really annoyed and I want my money back. No, I don't want to do that all the time. Thanks. It's just a waste of time. And then I'm thinking, actually, as the internet doesn't seem to work very well anywhere in and around your store, which doesn't work very well with this app and this points system and this scheme and all the rest of it, how about you just give me the £2 off now? Save me having to bother messing with a survey to come back to order me and Mrs Shelano another coffee to get £2. Oh, it's just, why have we got to this point where all I wanted, it was a cold morning and I wanted a cup of coffee. Yet now everything is data, isn't it? Around, you've got to have access to the internet constantly to live anymore, it seems. And then secondly, it's all the data they're collecting all the time and this kind of customer loyalty. It's just like driving those things you were talking about where you're not making the decisions anymore. Because now, Mrs. Shelano's like, oh, I've got another 12 points. I'm going there for a coffee rather than go somewhere else you might want to go. So all this drives this kind of stuff. And it just annoys me. Why can't you have a spontaneous, it's -4 in the morning, we're on the way to work, let's get a coffee. Do we need, and I don't know, I appreciate you're an IT industry individual, but do we need this all the time?
Well, I have to say, I think you're very much in the right there with the talk about trying to order and using an app to order and all of this sort of nonsense. I don't really see the benefit of that if you're sort of standing outside doing that. The story you did mention there about Mrs. Shelano waving a phone around outside actually makes sense now because you'd sent me a message, but I actually thought you were the one who was like trying to use the app, not her. So now that story makes sense as I sort of put together the conversation that was sent from the two of you to me. So that is a little bit of clarity for me there, which is brilliant.
You might have known it wouldn't be me using an app to
well, no.
in a coffee shop.
But what is interesting, there is another, not the same chain as the one you were referring to there, but another coffee shop chain that is based at my work. So I sometimes go in there and get myself a cup of tea. I don't drink coffee, just going to point that out. I'm all about the tea. So I'll go and have a cup of tea. And I actually have the app for that downloaded into my account so I can use it offline. Purely because then if there is no signal, you can still use it, and that's useful. And you can do that with a few other things. It's like with train tickets and stuff. You can download them to your phone. So then if you're on the train and there's no signal and the conductor comes past and they want to see your tickets, you can still show them and whatnot. I think that's really useful. But trying to order online and all of this, it has become a little bit awkward. And there are times, yes, you want to order certain things and you can do that. But yeah, if you're going somewhere and there's no signal, that's ridiculous. There's a supermarket quite near us that you'll know of. That's quite a large supermarket near where we live, and they have no signal whatsoever in there. And my dad was complaining, he'd gone in there a little while back and he was complaining to a member of staff. And they're like, well, just use that free Wi-Fi. And he's like, yeah, but you've got to then start faffing around with all of that. Like, you don't want to be doing that. Because then you walk out and if you forgot, you're sort of half connected to that, half not connected to that. You don't know what it's just ridiculous.
Giving them more data.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Insecure.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Possibly. So, all these things just, I don't know, it just goes back into your modern life can get a bit irritating scenario.
Welcome to my world, T.A. Welcome.
However, I want to bring up something else. I wanted to talk about something slightly more positive.
Okay.
In the roundabout of the online world and the real world merging in a strange way.
Okay, what's that about then?
So, as you know, I was at one of my writers' retreats yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
Which was, another really productive day, actually, as part of my 100-day writing challenge. Obviously, I had to defer by a day because of my illness last week. So I should be on day 46, but I'm on day 45. No major dramas there. But yesterday, which was day 44, go to Birmingham City Centre for these retreats, as you know. Now, a woman walks in, and I look, and I think, I've seen you before. And she looked at me. I really recognise you. She went, yeah, I've been to these before. And I went, yeah, okay, yeah. Must have seen you here before. But in my head, I was like, I've seen you somewhere else. I know I have. And I knew it was online. I started scrolling through different social media stuff, trying to go, where have I seen this person before? Anyway, they call us up to do our introductions and all the rest of it. She then says her first name, and I'm like, that rings a bell. And then the fact she just published a book. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen this even in the last couple of days. I know I have. So when the introductions are finished and we're walking back past the table, I just said, look, sorry, I know I've seen you here before. I said, but I've seen you somewhere else as well, online. And she said, really? And I said, yeah. I said, haven't you wrote some book, blah, 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 titled? And I had a garble at the title. And she just went, yeah. And she then picked a copy of it up from underneath like her stuff and went, this? I went, yes, I've seen this. I went, you and I connected online. We had randomly connected on Threads in an author chat about like people in the UK, and then it became people in the West Midlands, I think it was. So weirdly, we connected on that, and then we're sat opposite each other in real life at a writer's retreat. And then we had a bit of a chat at lunchtime about it because she self-published her first book, I think December. So obviously not all that long after me. So we had a real chat about all of that. She's just sort of starting on the second one now. Obviously, I've been working on the second one. And it was just fascinating about this small world, that was fascinating. But just wanted to sort of raise that really as we talk about when you moan about tech and different things as well. That was a bit of a strange moment yesterday.
Can we? Because I actually saw this earlier on today, believe it or not. I actually saw your Threads post about going to the writers' retreat and saw that someone had been tagged in it and was sort of mentioning it. Can we mention her? Are we? Yeah. So it's Gem Writes Things, is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
Gemma Walker?
Gemma Walker, yeah. And the book is...
Is it The Judge, the Jailer and the Thief?
That's it.
I mean, I have to say, I looked at that earlier on today and I actually did think that's the kind of thing I'd probably read, a little bit of that kind of stuff. Okay. A heist thriller. I mean, come on. That's definitely up there in the kind of genre I think I'd enjoy. So yeah, we'll put a link out to that maybe as well, just to provide our listeners with a chance to look at that as well. And while you are buying a copy of that book, don't forget to also buy a copy of The Doctor's Hidden Patients by T.A. Shelano. I'm doing your sales for you, T.A.
I was going to say we have just given a free plug to another author, which is absolutely fine. But yeah, please do buy my book if you haven't already, as I know many of the people that listen to the show already have either bought or read a copy of my book, but there may be people who haven't. But yeah, by all means, do go out and check out Gemma's book, which again, same genre as me, old thriller. But yeah, it did sound like quite an interesting book actually. Yeah, so that was just an interesting one. But yeah, so Rich, I've got some bad news.
Oh no, go on.
The GoFundMe for some new weighing scales for you hasn't really generated the sums of money I was hoping for from the last
To be
episode.
fair, I think they're all right. I think it's just the battery that I had to change again, and
I
it
don't want to
seems
give
all
the
right.
amount away, but I did spend them on them coffees on Friday morning.
Oh, that's shocking. Well, I wanted actually, you've talked about the writing challenge, and obviously, we in a previous episode came up with a bit of a challenge for me. And I will say, and I know what you're going to be like when I say this, so please do bear with me, because I know the minute I say I haven't done it every day, you're going to start, you're pulling a face right now. But
No,
listen, because this is a good story, I think. And shows that there has been some progress. So I have failed to do it every day. I will point that out. Been having a few days where I haven't really been feeling that motivated. However, I have been doing exercises. I have been on the exercise bike and I have been using it. So here is the random thing that has sort of, I found that it's had a positive effect on me. So I was going to see, as you dubbed her, my LF, Ruth, on Sunday. And I was like, right, I'm going to go and get the bus there and then get the tram over there. And I was like, okay, cool. Now, Saturday, I was at work. And this is proof of my memory just not serving me well. I've been at work on Saturday. It was a rare Saturday of working. Came back from work and there's a bus stop before mine where I will ping the button once we get past it, ready for me to get off at my stop. So I do that. And it says that the stop is temporarily suspended. That's my stop. And I was like, oh, no. We're getting towards it. I'm thinking, oh, great. I'm going to have to get off further down the road. It's not the best weather. I could have done with stopping down the way nearer to me so I could go to the shops, get a few things sorted and stuff like that. Otherwise, I'd be nearer our main town. I thought, oh, I don't really want to be down there. I want to be nearer where I live so I can just sort stuff out and be back and in the warm and whatnot. I have to be in at work all day. Driver, thankfully, because it's not just me getting up, there was a few people, lets us all off a little bit after the stop. I was like, brilliant, fantastic. And I won't go into the debacle I had with the buses on Wednesday. I have mentioned them to you, but it was nice to have a bus driver who actually got me home, essentially, unlike Wednesday's trip home. But Sunday, I'm going to see Ruth, and I thought, right, I'll get on the bus. I completely forgot that the bus stop had been suspended. So I'm standing there, listening to your episode with Casting Views that you'd recorded with Dan. Okay, cool. Bus is only 5 minutes away, 4 minutes away, 3 minutes away. All of a sudden, this bloke starts walking up the road. And obviously the sign that said the bus stop was suspended wasn't facing me. It was facing the other way because it's at the one end of the bus stop, not the other, the way the traffic comes. And I'm obviously stood at the bit where it actually stops to let you on the bus. And he goes, oh, mate, I think this bus stop's suspended. He says, like, there's a sign there. And I went, oh, God, yeah, you're right. Thinking, I'd obviously, yesterday, come back, I'd completely forgotten. It was only a day after. So, I went to the bus stop further down the road with only 2 minutes to get to it. And I started doing a bit of a run down there. And I got there in time. And I was so happy because I want to tell you, TA, a few weeks ago, that would not have been possible. I did not miss the bus due to the fact that I've been doing a little bit of the fitness and been on the exercise bike. I will admit it has paid a little bit of dividend that I did manage to get. I wasn't out of breath or anything. Got to that bus stop. I was like, oh, this is actually all right. This is sort of helping me out a little bit. So it has had some benefits is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. And do you actually know, in terms of, we're on the 17th day of the month of your exercise bike challenge, how many days have you done the bike?
For most of them, to be fair. It's just I haven't done every day. I think I've missed, how many have we done? We've done 17, so I've probably missed 7.
It's nearly half.
No.
Okay.
Look,
what you're saying is,
what I'm saying is, I may not have done the full thing, but it has at least worked out.
So what you're saying is, what you have done has provided a benefit because you did something that you don't think you'd have been able to done, say, a month earlier or something like that.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I have mentioned it before. I do a lot of walking around on my commute. I do a lot of walking around at lunchtime and stuff like that. I think that combined with the exercise bike and combined with eating a little bit better and stuff like that has helped a lot. So yes, it hasn't worked as a doing it every day. I do think as well, trying to just go straight into it for every day wasn't going to help me anyway. So now I've built a little bit of that up. I'm going to try again, and sort of doing maybe not every day, but most days of the week. Maybe doing 5 days a week on there and trying to do that.
I mean, obviously, February's a short month, so you've only got another 11 days of this month left. So,
yeah, well, I just thought keep doing what I've been doing, going on there, not sporadically because that's not really the right term, but going on there when I can and as often as I can, and then it has seemed to work, which has been really good. So I have seen a change in that respect, which has been good.
Well, it's about building better habits, isn't it? I suppose that's the key. But, going back to the scales scenario, where I know we talked quite heavily about the challenge that you were having with the different floors and what error messages and stuff. Are you content that your scales are okay at the moment then, in terms of the latest way in which we haven't yet talked about?
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. I had a bit of a well, let's not give too much away, but yeah, I think they are correct as far as I can tell. But even if they're not, at least we've done the challenges and stuff, and we can always, when we get into the next season or anything like that, if we do, hopefully we do, then we can obviously look at maybe getting the same pair of scales, the same branded pair of scales for pure clarity.
Exactly that. That could well be an option. I still think we should do a vote on whether or not people think you and I should be stood in our pants at Slimming World or at some boxing weighing. But I don't think we can really do that every week. That's probably not going to work, but and probably wouldn't be the greatest visual option.
Definitely not.
I don't think. But there we go. So I think on the scales, we can say that the latest figures are...
are you going to do them now?
I'm going to do them now because we didn't do them at the beginning, so we will.
I thought we were going to save them for another episode, but okay. If you want to, go for
it. We'll just keep it ticking. And so you are a non-mover this week, which keeps you at 19 stone 6 pounds, which is 123.6 kilos. Now I managed to drop 2 pounds this week to 19 stone 1 pound, which is 121.4 kilos. But I would obviously caveat within that I didn't eat really for about a day and a half or so anything. And obviously was sick, so that may have had some contribution into my weigh-in this week, or the other day, should I say? So that's where we're kind of at the moment, and it's just keeping that ticking over, I guess, is the key thing. But I was getting into a great sort of method of things with the exercise, I think, and then that kind of put me out for a few days, to be honest. I obviously didn't then have the well-being and energy to do anything, but I did do Sean T today, which was good, and hopefully won't be ill again. It'll be good.
Yeah, I think so. I do think I need to find something different to the exercise bike, because I think that's been part of it as well. It's not something I really enjoy doing as an exercise. So I do maybe need to try and find something to substitute that out for eventually. But yeah, it's fine as a sort of short-term thing, but I think I need to find something that I do enjoy doing. I
think enjoying something's a massive part of it, isn't it, as to whether or not you'll stick at it. And the only thing I'd say about having the exercise bike from your point of view is it's in the house, so it means you haven't got to then try and go somewhere, do something.
Oh yeah.
When you can do something from your home, then there's always a better chance of sticking at it, but at the same time you've still got to enjoy it, otherwise it's one of those things that will just sort of fade away. I was slightly concerned by your hope that we get to the next season. I mean, dear me, to think that you wouldn't even push to a season 4.
Oh, we want a season 4, absolutely.
Whether the world wants a season 4 is another thing, but so we're sort of, where are we now? We're in the middle of February, so we're good sort of 6-7 weeks now into the new year, and ticking along. I mean, on the writing challenge, 45 days, I can reveal at this moment in time 23,600 words written across the 45 days. So I'm really pleased with that progress on the second book.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. Really good
And that's
progress.
been a big thing in terms of the consistency of doing something that I said really wanted to try and get into a better rhythm with the writing, and definitely doing something each day, even if it is, 40 minutes or whatever, is really helpful. I mean, obviously the retreat yesterday, you're going for a few hours, so you get to do a lot, but just having that momentum and consistency has been massively helpful. So hopefully we can, move towards getting a first draft completed would be really good. So there we go. Just realised, we talked about, obviously, Gem writes things, Gemma Walker and her book. We should have invited her on. We've just done a massive plug for somebody that we haven't even actually sort of invited on. We should just send her a bill.
Maybe we should get her to try and see if she'll be on an episode at some point.
Should we just send her an invoice and go, you didn't agree to this, you didn't even know about this, but we're going to charge you
for a free ad.
A free ad that we've mentioned on here for your book. That was good to talk to, obviously a fellow author, but a local person again as well, and interesting to see their experiences and what they've been doing and whatnot. So yeah, that was good, really good.
Maybe at some point we need to do a visit to a fellow podcaster as well. Maybe we should get in touch with Dan and be like, Dan, come to Birmingham. We'll do an episode together.
What, in person?
In person. We'll just do all these like big promotional things. These sort of to use a video gaming reference, some co-op.
I mean, there's obviously probably huge costs involved in needing a studio or something to do that properly, because I'm sure you're not going to have people in, the room in your house. We talked about this before, but it's a bit. You would actually have to go to a studio. There'd be like huge costs involved. I mean,
That's fine. We'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll give us a free taster session. They won't. It'll be terrible.
Free taster session.
They won't do that. I'm sure. But
I thought I was being ridiculous saying we were minor celebrities who might get an invite to the EastEnders 40th birthday party. No,
you never know.
We're such big podcasters. We're going to get studios for free.
No, only it's a one-off just to test it out. You know what I mean? But yeah,
they should do it. Absolutely, they should do it. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. We've got another guest episode, I think, coming up soon as well, which is going to be good.
We have, that should be a really good one. As you say, really looking forward to that. And I think with the guests as well, we've got a few things in the pipeline that we're hoping are going to pan out that should be really good. You mentioned something actually, TA, last time we recorded. I don't think we had it on air. But actually your conversation with Dan on Casting Views kind of inspired something. And it was sort of the talk about maybe extending the season slightly or doing other things where you might need to. And I actually thought about it, and maybe we should do a few sort of like the off-topic kind of things where we could do a couple of episodes, not as part of the season, but just to keep getting a bit of relevant content out there and sort of things. Maybe we could even do like a podcast swap with somebody, or we could do maybe some things like a film review or something like that, just something that's there, that's kind of out there. And I thought that might be a good little idea to do, just to sort of keep tiding us over until the next season, because we do obviously want to do a bit more planning for the next season. We planned for this one, but I think on the guest side of things, we've kind of, while we've got people involved, it's sort of been, again, that scheduling. And we spoke about that, maybe doing, recording more stuff, but holding it back.
Well, I mentioned this in the recording with Dan, that we obviously did a lot of guest episodes in season 2. And we did then say maybe we should have held, one or two of them back for this season. But we have still got guest episodes we're doing. But yeah, that might have been something we could have looked at. Open to ideas, I think, is the key to this scenario. Who knows? Might do a special guest episode with Mrs Shelano. Actually, maybe not. Definitely not. Actually, or we get the one we talked about, wasn't it, with Raging Rich and Raging Ruth.
Well, I was thinking more. We should get Mrs Shelano to appear on Casting Views on Mindwipe. Although she may say she wants a mind wiped of your wedding and she doesn't want to relive it, and that'd be terrible.
Oh dear me. That is absolutely terrible thing to say. She actually thought I was going to mention our wedding day. Don't
give too much away though, TA.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that that didn't get mentioned, but
No.
she thought that might be one of my things.
I thought you had a really good story, your story for you and Mrs Shelano, and I knew that story. I'd forgotten it. You had told me a while back about it, but yeah, I thought that was great. I was on the tram at that time listening, and I had a big smile on my face. I was laughing at it, and I just kept thinking, oh my God, those people over there are probably thinking, what's wrong with that bloke? But yeah, Dan did mention, and it would be great, and obviously scheduling and whatnot would need to go into account. We would love to have Dan back on here, of course, and he mentioned as well maybe us appearing together on an episode of Casting Views in the future as well, so that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I think possibly around dinner party stuff, I think was one of the ideas, wasn't it? So that could be a good one.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I think we'd have to think about the logistics of how we'd figure out who was picking what and things, but yeah, I think that'd be really good.
I don't know whether we pick the same things. I don't think we pick the same guests. I don't think we pick the same.
No, but I think the way that you do it is you'd pick obviously one course each, and then one would pick together, and the guests the same, one each, and then one would pick together. I think that's probably the best way to do it. Or we'd be there forever otherwise.
We already know though what you're going to go with, because Raging Rich's recipes, you're going to go with soup, satay, and scones. We already know.
You added something else to it the other day, didn't you?
Did I? I can't remember now.
Yeah. You added, was it salmon or something? You were adding something to it. It was like, yeah.
Oh, dear me. A salmon satay, something like that. That could be good.
It was something like that. But I will say, T.A., just before we wrap up, because I noticed something, and actually, again, something potentially for an episode in the future and talking about certain things. So, this is just a really random thing that I sort of found. I follow a few celebrities on Instagram, LinkedIn, and things like that. And there's a few people actually I'll probably talk about in a future episode, some of their motivational stuff and things. But do you know who Liz McClarnon is?
Liz McClarnon?
Yeah.
If my memory serves right, was she in Atomic Kitten?
She was in Atomic Kitten, yes.
Oh, good knowledge.
So today I saw something. So basically, a little while ago, there was a big reunion on ITV and all that sort of stuff. And obviously it brought back a lot of groups from the 90s and the early 2000s and all that. And Atomic Kitten reformed and all that. So when they did some international tours after that reformation, Liz McClarnon didn't go. Michelle Heaton from Liberty X went with Atomic Kitten and did the performances. I thought, well, that's a bit weird. What's going on there? It turns out Liz McClarnon doesn't fly. Now, she used to fly, but in recent years, she's sort of had a strange relationship with flying. She doesn't like doing it, but she still wants to travel. She's actually started an online community called the No Fly Traveller. And this has started getting a bit of press and stuff like that recently. I just found that really interesting, sort of seeing this thing about traveling but not flying to do it, visiting certain countries. Because there's got to be, I mean, yeah, you can still get around to various countries, but it's going to take a lot longer if you're not flying.
I was going to say, no offence, Liz, I don't think I'll join you on the trip to Australia.
That would be a tough one, wouldn't it?
That's a long trip.
I found it really interesting, and I went on the Instagram and I had a little look, and there's some really good stuff on there, that she's been going to in places. But
interestingly, you may remember the footballer Dennis Bergkamp.
Dennis Bergkamp, yeah, he didn't like to fly,
He famously didn't fly, and when they played in Europe, when he was going to play, he had to set off about 2 days earlier, and even I think I saw somebody interviewed said it was the same, obviously domestically. For example, if they go and play, say Newcastle, the complete opposite end of the country, and they'd fly, he'd go on a car or a coach or something like that. You're totally different, sort of never travelling with the team sort of thing.
Weren't there like games he didn't play in that were abroad because he just wouldn't fly there, so they couldn't take him and stuff like that?
Yeah, the problem became, I think, with certain destinations was if it was too far away, even in Europe, there was no good in the timings between, say, playing on a weekend in the Premier League and then having to then travel to get, it just wasn't viable. And then getting back, it was going to end up interfering with, I guess, his fitness and, the actual running of the schedule for other matches. So I think sometimes if it was too far away and, say it was Turkey or something for a match, they might have to go, oh, that's too far. Or, whereas if it's a match in France or something and go, yeah, we can do that. But yeah, he was an adamant non-flyer as well, which is which is interesting.
Yeah, I just happened to see it today, and I thought I'd mention it because it was just a bit of a quirky thing. I thought, oh, this is.
There could be. You mentioned film review. We could have. Wait for it. You just have to call it the remake, and it'd be Trains and Automobiles with Liz McClarnon and Desperate replacing John Candy and Steve Martin. Steve Martin, yeah.
That's a great film. That's a great.
It was a good film. But there we go. And I'll tell you what, we've just done something quite random there. How on earth have we managed to combine Planes, Trains and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin with Liz McClarnon from Atomic and Dennis Bergkamp? I mean, what a combination that is. That's the show. That's what you need to do with your Instagram now. You got to message. I mean, obviously, John Candy's sadly no longer with us, absolute comic talent. But you'll have to message Steve Martin, Liz McClarnon, and Dennis Bergkamp that idea to be guests on our show. I don't know, maybe, or maybe just Liz. I think the others might be a bit difficult, but.
Well, yes, that probably wraps it up for the episode with a bit of a random thing at the end there. But yeah, just thought I'd bring it up. I just happened to see it today, and I just thought that's a bit strange. It was cool, like a bit of a quirky thing. But I thought, oh, that's...
Or I'm going off topic slightly with this now, but Liz McClarnon and Dennis Bergkamp do a remake of the song, the Atomic Kitten beat hit. You Can Make Me Travel Round the Whole World Again.
On that note, let's call it a day on the episode.
So that was Monday Night Podcast, folks. May or may not be back by popular demand whenever you listen. Obviously, when people listen to these, it doesn't really mean anything. It's more just me and you recording. I don't know what I've said. It's not like it is Monday Night Football and people are actually watching it Monday night. But
some people may listen on a Monday, the week after it's gone out. You never know.
But it is definitely different. Obviously, doing it virtually and then doing it not on a weekend.
Yes, but I do believe next episode we may be back in the same room again.
Back in the studio. So I will be checking that all the requirements for my contract are fully met.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right. All right. Nice one.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, TA. And yeah, we will be back with our next episode in about a week's time. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Two best mates, yeah, they're taking a stand. Rachel, Rich and T.A. got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real. Oh, it's the little